Hello and welcome to Cavs Daily, your one-stop shop for everything Cavs related. I'm your host, Paul Williams, the authority of Cleveland Cavalier basketball and Cleveland sports, if we're keeping it 100. If you could, before we get into the good stuff today, hit the like, hit the comment, hit the subscribe. I'm told it helps, so I kind of have to ask for it. So bear with me with all of that stuff. And now that that's out the way, let's get to the first topic of the day. It's the finale. It is the preseason finale. The Cavs are currently playing the Detroit Pistons in Game 4 of the preseason. They're currently just wrapping up the first half, and it was a very promising first half and first quarter, particularly for the Cavs. I mean, they just showed what they're capable of and why they're one of the favorites to win the championship this season. They can beat you in so many ways, and they have so many different weapons that can beat you as well. And that was all on display in the first quarter in tonight's game as the Cavs raced out to a 42-point first quarter. They led by as many as 16, I believe, 39-23 before the Pistons did fight back a little bit at the end. But yeah, the Cavs defensively, they were playing very well. Evan Mobley leading the way, of course, with 3 blocks and a steal. Jared Allen right there with him. And honestly, all the guys were playing very good defense. Sam Merrill got the start today along. We'll talk more about that a little later. But Merrill got the start along with Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley, and Allen. So kind of the suspects that you can expect to be starting next week when we tip off the regular season, at least until Darius Garland and Max Strus get back. But the Cavs didn't miss a beat at all. Their offense was humming. Their defense was just very active. And I talked about something they were working on in training camp, trying to really push the pace this year and get the ball in the scoring zone as soon as possible. Scoring zone being about 35 feet out from the basket and in. Anything in that area they considered the scoring zone. They wanted to be in the scoring zone, ready to find a shot within 6 seconds every time, and that's something they worked on a lot in the training camp down in IMG Academy. And they were putting it on display tonight. They were making quick decisions. They were pushing the ball, whether it was off of a make or a miss. It led to open shot after open shot or easy dunk. Every guy was getting involved. It seemed like Donovan Mitchell did lead the way. He had 13 points in about a 3-minute span, 4 minutes maybe. He was hitting from everywhere. And he was also very active on defense with 3 steals. Jared Allen was playing very well on both sides of the ball. He had 4 quick points and 8 total in the first half. Lonzo Ball, man, there was a 3-minute span that Lonzo Ball came in. He was the first guy off the bench alongside Dean Wade. And as soon as he came in, he just made a huge impact right away. Within 3 minutes of him being in the game, he already had 4 points, 5 assists, a steal, a block, and 2 rebounds. And that's why I love him, and that's why I think he's such a great fit with this team, because he could just come in and play such a clearly identified role that plays up to his strengths. He doesn't have to do too much. He knows he doesn't have to do too much, and just looks like a lot of fun out there for him and the guys that are on the court with him. He also played very well defensively, which isn't a shock if you follow basketball and know Lonzo Ball. He's always been a good defender. DeAndre Hunter, once again, I don't think it's just a coincidence anymore or just a good game or two. he again came out very aggressive and very efficient from the field today. He already has 14 points as we wind down the first half. 10 of those came in the first quarter, and he's just playing so loose and with so much joy. You could just see the difference from last year when he looked like he was still a bit uncomfortable trying to find his role, find his niche on this team. That was not the case so far in the preseason this year, where he looks spectacular and he's doing everything you can ask for from him and more. He's 2 for 3 from 3, so that now brings his total to 7 for 10 so far through 3 preseason games, which is obviously spectacular. And every guy contributed. Sam Merrill had a 3 and another bucket. Dean Wade, when he came in, he was playing great defense and also scoring the ball. He had 8 points in the first half. So just a really, really positive first half for the Cavs. And that's exactly what you were looking for coming into this game 0-3 so far in the preseason. You at least want to build up some positive momentum going into the season. Now, a lot of what that first quarter was really just the Cavs showing off why they honestly should be much more feared than they are. And I mean, I get why they aren't at this point. You have to earn that. But for the people that don't really tune in and aren't locked in on this Cavs team, I don't think they realize like what the upside and the ceiling is for this team. This isn't hyperbole or me just saying it because I like the Cavs, but when they're playing at their best, this is one of the best and most talented and well put together basketball teams I've probably ever seen, honestly. Like, they play so well and such a beautiful brand of basketball when they are at their best, when they are running the floor and getting out in transition and making that extra pass to a guy that is maybe a little more open than the look you would have gotten. Even if you might get a decent look, they're always looking for the great look. And their defense as well, that shouldn't go without saying. You can see it on the defensive end also with the energy that they play with and just the aggression, the confidence, the knack to know where to be when you need to be there. When the Cavs are hitting on all cylinders, they're doing it on both sides of the ball, and it should really be a scary sight for the rest of the NBA. When you have your starters start the game very well, and then you bring in guys like Lonzo Ball or Dean Wade or Larry Nance Jr., Jalen Tyson. Those are just guys that are really good at something. For Lonzo, it's facilitating and playing defense. Dean Wade, it's confusing us and never knowing how to feel about him and playing really good defense. Larry Nance doing just a little bit of everything. Those guys all come in with a role, and when you have the stars and the core that the Cavs have, the guys can play their role to the highest standard and the highest level, and you can get the most out of those guys. So when you mix them in with what those guys are also bringing to the stars like Donovan and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, what they're doing to help their game and help make the game easier for them, it's a perfect mesh, and it is championship basketball when they're at their best, and there's no argument about it. The Cavs are at their best when, like I said, they're getting out in transition, playing freely, not being afraid to shoot, but also not being afraid to dish off for a better shot, and just always being active and energetic on defense and using your defense to keep your offense going even when you're not knocking down as many shots. When the Cavs are playing up to their ability like they did for a long spurt, or basically the whole first quarter in this game against the Detroit Pistons, it is really beautiful to watch. And the Pistons had no answers for them. I mean, they were without Cade Cunningham. He's not playing tonight. But the rest of their starters were there. They play scrappy as well, and they're competitive. But you could just tell when both teams are fully healthy and everyone's on the court and they're playing up to their best. The Cavs are just still light years ahead of a team like the Pistons, who might fight for a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference this year. Azir Thompson was doing everything he could to cause chaos, picking up 3 fouls in about 5 minutes of game time. And you could just see even in a preseason game was getting very frustrated trying to, because he's a very good defender, but when you have so many weapons like the Cavs have, and then you have a guy like Donovan Mitchell as well that you have to guard one-on-one a lot of the time and keep a focus on, it can be a very frustrating task, and you could kind of see that early in this game for a lot of Detroit guys. There's just really nothing you can do when the Cavs are hitting on all cylinders like they were for a while in tonight's game. So, Mr. Thompson, don't take it personally. You'll be a pretty solid player in the league, I think, for a while. Probably not as good as your brother, but yeah, nobody has answers for the Cavs when we're playing like this, so don't feel bad. But yeah, the Cavs, like I said, just flexing their upside tonight, showing why they are the odds-on favorite to come out the East and compete for a championship, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And that's why you need to be watching even during the regular season on a random December or January night. It's still fun to watch. Now, with the first quarter of tonight's game, the Cavs and Coach Kenny Atkinson have continued to answer some of the, well, pretty much all the questions we had as we started to get closer to the season and to training camp and all that. Now, through training camp and through most of the preseason, I feel like we have clarity on this team for the most part. Still a couple questions we'll talk about, but there were some more concrete answers tonight, and I think the biggest one is obvious, and that's Sam Merrill is the starter when healthy in that fill-in role for Darius Garland. There was some question, I think, especially after Jalen Tyson started the first 2 preseason games, if he might be getting that role, but I don't think there's ever a doubt, and this is actually the starting 5 we predicted here on Cavs Daily like a month ago, but yeah, it does look like it's for sure going to be Donovan at the point, Sam Merrill at the 2, DeAndre Hunter at the 3, Evan Mobley at the 4, and Jared Allen at the 5 when we tip off next week in New York. So it's good to have clarity on that. We also got a little more clarity on what the rotation will look like, and I think for at least the first few weeks while we're without DG and Max, I think this is how they played it tonight is going to be the rotation. You start those 5, then you come in with Lonzo and D. Wade, and then a combo of Jalen Tyson and Larry Nance Jr. Maybe a Craig Porter mix in after that a little bit, but I think it's going to be basically that. And then when we get Max and DG back, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. Maybe one of the bench guys loses most of their minutes, but also it seems clear that at least early on, Thomas Bryant is a distant 4th in the big depth chart behind Mobley, Jared Allen, Larry Nance, and then it's Thomas Bryant. I do think he can work his way into some meaningful playing time this year, but I think the rotation from tonight really just solidified where that's at the moment. And we know what the rotation is going to be until we're fully healthy, and now we know that for sure. Unless something crazy happens and someone else gets hurt, or for some reason we start off 0-5, something like that, this is what it's going to look like as far as the starters and the basic rotation goes. And just like last year, Donovan Mitchell will play the first 5 minutes of the game, and then he'll come out for a few minutes, then go back in around the 3-minute mark to finish the first quarter. Coach Atkinson did that all year last year. Donovan was always the first one out the game, usually him paired with Evan Mobley. He did it with Jared Allen tonight, though. Took out Jared Allen and Donovan at that 7-minute mark. But yeah, that also seems like Coach Atkinson is going to stay with that basic rotation for Donovan. So even with Darius Garland out, that doesn't look like it's going to change either. I think Coach Atkinson just really wants to keep things as close to what they would be when we're fully healthy so guys can really get and stay comfortable in their roles. So yeah, those were some answers that we got tonight, and a lot of it we already pretty much had an idea that was going to be the case, but I really think tonight solidified it because I do think they were approaching this as a dress rehearsal, at least for the first half of the game. And to wrap things up today, let's talk a little bit about the few questions that are still out there for this Cavs team. I think the first one is, will DeAndre Hunter continue to start once Max Strus and Darius Garland are back? Will Strus get his spot back? I've said I liked it better with Strus starting and Hunter coming off the bench. I mean, he's playing so good, though, in the starting role so far through the preseason. If he is even close to this in the regular season, it's going to be tough to make that switch. But I don't know. I just like them in their respective roles better. I like Strus as a starter, Hunter as the first guy off the bench. But yeah, I think that's still to be determined. And also, if Jalen Tyson is still going to have a role once everyone is healthy. I mean, if you look at the preseason so far, and especially tonight, though it'll be coming off the bench, he does look like he's going to get some sort of minutes. Now, with Darius Garland and Max Strus in the rotation as well, makes it a bit trickier. And that begs the other question, will the Cavs go 11, maybe 12 deep in the regular season? Will they use 12 guys? Because if Tyson and Wade and Craig Porter Jr. and Larry Nance and Sam Merrill and all those guys are going to get minutes off the bench, at least somewhat consistently, we're going to have to go 11 deep at the minimum, unless we have injuries, of course. So that's still, I think, up in the air a little bit. I think Kenny Atkinson will use a solid 10 to 11 guy rotation for a lot of the regular season. I mean, it helps keeps guys hopefully healthy for the playoffs, at least more fresh for the playoffs. And Atkinson showed last year he likes to not play his starters very many minutes at all, as our stars and our starters played the lowest minutes of any real certified starters or star players in the league last year. So I do think that he'll go at least 10 deep, but man, we have enough talent where 12 deep wouldn't be crazy, and I think that is something we could see at times throughout the year. Of course, injuries and rest days will probably keep it closer to 10, maybe 11, but yeah, we definitely have the talent for it. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode. Check out the rest of this Cavs-Pistons game, see what the second half holds. But either way, we already talked about the stuff that really matters. It is just the final preseason game. But that's an exciting statement, because that means the next game of basketball we'll be talking about will be next week's opener against the New York Knicks. Hope you'll stop in every day until then and every day after then to be with me on this journey. And until I talk to you guys tomorrow, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a great day.